The video you are about to watch is from an old woodworking magazine that I published during the years of 2003 to approximately 2006. This was a very unique magazine. It was purely video content and it was distributed on DVDs. The magazine ran for approximately 3.5 years, and then due to financial concerns, we simply had to terminate the magazine. We moved on to other things over the last roughly 15 years. However, there has been a request to resurrect this content, so I've gone through the trouble to get the equipment, the products, everything I needed in order to bring this content back to life to share with everyone. Here on this YouTube channel, we'll be putting up approximately 100 to 120 of the original stories that appeared in that magazine. The magazine was called Woodworking at Home Magazine, and it was truly one of a kind in the world. I really hope you enjoy these videos, and please tell your friends about them.
Hi, welcome to A Turn for the Better. I'm Dick Singh, and I'm going to be doing the article today on parting tools. I think parting tools are very misrepresented. People really don't understand its functions, and if I can today, I'd like to go through them and make your life a little bit easier. This is my favorite parting tool. It's just a straight 1/8. I don't have the diamond type, it's just a flat 1/8. I'll discuss the diamond a little later. Okay, the normal consensus of people is when they do go in, that a parting tool just goes in its center line and proceeds across to the center. That is nothing but a scrape. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ride my parting tool quite high, and I'm slowly bringing it back and raising the back of the handle. Now, did you see where it's starting to cut? Now we kind of push forward. Makes nice cuts. Now I'm going to go on the outside here so you can see what's really happening. You see how as the diameter decreases, I have to go in and I have to go down. So what I'm going to be doing is making a movement as such to reach the center. Now as you get to the center, you do want to slow down because the surface speed is much less. Okay, now as you see, from here to here, I have to move in and down. Definitely from here to the center, I make a big arc in. This is the other parting tool that I use most of the time. This one, the only difference is it's a little thinner. This one is a 1/16 thick, and it's basically the same height. The grind on the front was strictly to keep it lower on to the tool rest, to keep my center of gravity down. Why do we need a 1/16? If you're doing boxes or you need a real small kerf cut, this is a very, very good tool to use because you don't waste a lot of wood. Where on a box you want to keep the grain where it looks like it's one continual piece, this one wastes less wood than what the larger ones would. The tool I have here is probably the most common of the parting tools. It's called a diamond-shaped parting tool. As you can see, it's actually wider in the very center than it is at the extremities. Okay, the purpose of this is to take and make a wider cut so that it does not bind. And it works quite well. Again, we're going to pick it up high. Okay, my main complaint to this tool is that it has to be sharpened exactly on the diamond points at its widest point. Tool manufacturers do not always make that easy for you because the steps are higher on one side than the other, which makes an angled cutting surface, which makes it difficult to go straight into your work. Other than that, it's a fine tool. This parting tool is more of a specialty type grind, and also the way it's made. It basically is flat, but at the top it has a little relief to help from keeping it catch. Also, the grind is very steep, and it has a flat surface on the top that has been ground. Now this makes it very good for hardwood. As you can see, I'm still going to have to start it high, bring it down. There's our cut. Okay, here's a real radical parting tool. It is made with a groove, a hollow groove on the bottom side. This produces two little tips that kind of protrude, which will take and supposedly cut a real nice sharp edge. And it does. Okay, it also leaves a little bit of a radius rather than a flat cut. And one of the big problems, or my dislike about it, is that these sharp edges on the bottom have a tendency to beat up your tool rest. Some folks, to get away from that, use a protector for files from file cabinets, and that is just slid on and used to protect the tool rest. Of course, the bad thing about that, it's round, so you don't get a nice flat lead in. Here is another real thin commercial parting tool. It's 1/16 thick, and it's much thicker than the one that I have, or the one I normally use. The grind is just a configuration that has worked out over time. Again, I like to keep the cutting edge close to the bottom to give it a low center of gravity. The only difference between this and my smaller one that I showed you before is the thickness. Sometimes I like the thinner one to get in better, but this one works quite fine. Another problem with the parting tool is cutting into the face of a piece and making a dado. That is not a problem that far. The problem starts when you start making it much deeper. Okay, here we run into a situation where the edges of the tool start hitting on the wall, and it will actually start flaring your hole out. Okay, now there is a way around that. The tool I have here is nothing more than a 1/4 inch square scraper. I do have a few modifications on it. As you can see, I've relieved the side, both sides, and the very front. The only part that cuts is immediately on the point. Okay, now, when we run this scraper in, I'm going to be a little above center line. And the only place I will be hitting will be right on that very corner. Naturally, here though, the dado is not wide enough for it. Okay, now, if you want that dado to be square, so what you want to do will be to take and line your tool up with the bed of your lathe. Just sight down the tool. If it's lined up with the lathe, you can just advance it forward and make a straight wall. Not all parting tools are used for delicate situations. This particular one, I use to cone out the center of bowl blanks. In other words, I will actually go in and take a core out of a bowl blank and use that as a second bowl. Okay, now this is much heavier than the other ones. It has a lot of strength to it to protect against vibration, and I can also, with this longer handle, put it under my arm to give me a little more stability. This is a commercial tool. It's made for the arm brace, but I don't use the arm brace too much because I hate to be connected to something that I can't get away from. As you can see, it's machined flat on one side and lightly on the other side. Our point is actually carbide. So I sharpen this with a small diamond hone. On the very end, it has a radius, internal radius, leaving 2 points. This I also sharpen with a round hone, and it seems to stand up quite fine. Sharpening a parting tool is very straightforward. I use roughly a 30-degree angle on my tool rest. I think most people get caught up in the fact of angles on tools. It's more important for your tool to be sharp. I use 100 on one side and 80 on the other, probably a little finer than a lot of people, and they are friable wheels which have a tendency to break down fast and keep a clean surface for high-speed steel. Sharpening the tool, you want to keep the tool flat and straight to the tool rest. When it comes to grinding on a tool, grind your tool once, sharpen it from there on. There's no sense in grinding away half of your tool. All it amounts to is touching it enough that you have a sharp, facet-free surface. This particular tool has evolved shape-wise strictly from being ground. Again, just sharpen enough to get it sharp. This happens to be an old friend. One of the tools that I've used for many years. I've sharpened it so many times that it's not of value for length anymore. I hope my little talk on parting tools have been very informative for you. And I guess I'm Dick Singh with my parting comment.
I sincerely hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you truly enjoyed it, please help us share this information with the rest of the communities. Please hit the subscribe button, give us a big thumbs up, and be sure to tell your friends about this channel. Thanks again for watching.